Gotham Season 4, Episode 8, Stop Hitting Yourself. Definitely a great episode. We get to see what I've been waiting for since the end of the last season, which is Tabitha running into Butch. It was smaller than I thought. It wasn't as, epically impactful as I thought, but it's definitely, the seed has officially been planted there, and I cannot wait to see how that plays out. They also really changed up some stuff that I wasn't expecting. I thought, we have, this whole storyline set in the Narrows, and it was kind of just like, the Narrows is where things were really bad. That's all the Narrows was to me. It was like, Lee was kind of trying to atone for some of her sins as far as, everything that happened with the touch virus. So that's why she was helping people, and that's why she decided to stay there. And I was like, okay, that's what's happening. She just happened to run into Ed and Butch, who's currently Solomon Grundy. Alright, this is pretty cool. Eventually Tabitha, Selina, and Barbara are going to get there, so we have that interaction. And I was like, alright, all this stuff is coming together. That's what I'm expecting. Crazy, revelations where it's like, holy crap, this person is alive. Got a great joke from Barbara where when they saw Butch and Tabitha was like, do you know what this means? And she's like, yeah, you owe me an apology for electrocuting me. I thought that was actually a really, really funny line. But we have some of these interactions. Lee hitting Barbara in the face. A lot of the Barbara stuff was really good, like either her getting hit or some of the jokes she made. It was like, okay, yeah, these are some pretty cool interactions. Ed getting knocked out by Selina was pretty funny. And then they go into the fight, and I was like, yep. All this stuff is kind of what I was expecting. Like I said, I thought there would be a little bit more of some of the crazier moments with Tabitha and Butch, and we started to get that a little when they were actually in the ring, because he does say her name, but she didn't hear it, and I was kind of sad, because I was like, oh man, it's about to happen, then she, knocks the crap out of him, but I was like, okay, this is cool. Then the Penguin storyline kind of bleeds into it, where he sends Firefly there, Lee does, her quip, and then takes her down, and now Lee is the leader of the Narrows, because Barbara killed the other woman, which I was very surprised by. That was the second biggest surprise. The first I would definitely have to say was Grundy ripping that dude's arm off in the beginning of the episode was nuts, because I did not expect them to show as much as they did, with the CG of the arm, the skin ripping open. I was like, I did not expect them to show that much detail of an arm ripping off. Typically it's just oh, an arm rips off and then beating the person up. And it was no, I can, it was, a couple seconds, but it was that was enough for me to register the CG of the skin, ripping open and seeing, red start to, seeing, the meat on the inside, and I was like, whoa, that was intense. It took me back to, I think it was last season, it may have been the season before last season too, where somebody got their head chopped off. I think that was last season, and they showed it just for a split second longer than I thought they would, of the head actually splitting back and falling, splitting open, or the neck splitting open, I guess. And it made me think of that. It was whoa, they pushed that. It was that one extra second was enough for me to register that was super nasty. That was really nasty. But that happens early on, and he's beating the dude up, and then, Barbara kills the woman who, ratted out Ed to, Penguin. So Barbara kills her, and it's I would like to announce that we are no longer working for Penguin, so they're back to being enemies with him, and then Lee ends up taking over, and it's alright, well, this was the whole thing, is that she went there to kind of atone for what happened with the touch virus, and they talked about it earlier on in the episode, with Ed, with him doing his whole Penguin show, making fun of Penguin, and how Penguin destroyed the Narrows, and kind of treats everybody like crap, from the Narrows. The two of them might end up actually being a team, which is insane to me. And of course, Grundy being there until the point that he actually regains all of his memories and stuff. And once that happens, I don't know what Ed should expect, but I don't think he'll be their muscle anymore. But at this point, it's the three of them are the leaders of the Narrows. You have Lee as the head of it, and then Ed is there, and he's trying to build himself back up, which was another great line at the end of the episode where he mentioned they're looking at their leader, and she was like, yeah, see, I told you they love you, and he was like, see, I'm supposed to be the stupid one right now. It's they're looking at you, you are the one who saves, you're the one who saves the children, you stick around here, and you take over for the boss. You're so much nicer. You defeat the fire-breathing dragon, that sort of thing. It's you are now the leader here, and they talked about how neither of them really want to take over and be leader. Neither of them really want to step into the fight. But now that Lee is there, I feel like Ed, especially with him being a main character, his position has moved up because it was always like the woman that was in charge, whose name I totally don't remember. It was like her, and then Lee was of course the doctor, and then Ed and Butch were just like the main attraction, and that was just like the mini makeshift hierarchy that they had. And then you take out the top, and then you have Lee, who everyone kind of respects, and she realizes that now, and that bumps up, Ed and Butch. So it's like, all right, well now they're gonna be like her lieutenants, and how is that gonna play out with this version of Ed, and when he eventually gets back to being the genius version that he was, is he gonna stick around or is he not gonna stick around? He now has Butch, and it's just like, how is that dynamic gonna play out? And Butch mentally, he's going to have that attachment to Lee, so if Ed decides that he wants to leave, is Butch just going to instantly go with him? Or will he be like, well, she's my friend now too, and you just want to leave? So there are a lot of different ways that this could play out that it, has me curious about. But I thought it was great. Probably, well, I don't know. It's definitely one of the biggest surprises. I think it may have been the biggest surprise for me this episode. The second one definitely being Jim officially becoming commissioner. And it's sad, but it's so well done with them pushing it where it's Bullock versus Jim. I do love it. I hate to see it, but I also love watching it because, like, it is just so good. It's so well done. And Bullock, the whole episode being, like, depressed, and, the drinking version of Bullock that I think, a lot of people are used to, especially if you watch, like, the old 90s Batman. And it's just like, man, that's where he is now. And it gets to this point where, it was like super early in the episode where Jim gets the letter from the mayor, and of course we go through the episode, we find out that Falcone, she was the one that was involved with that, and it comes down to the ending of the episode where Bullock didn't end up going to the ceremony, and he gave the bullets to Jim to hand out to everyone. And when he kind of realized that moment where they're talking like, that's the job, is that you're supposed to do the tough stuff, it's like Jim kind of realized, like, my best friend is gone. Like, he can't be the captain here. Like, that's not him anymore. And he signs that paper, and it's like, you're relieved of your position as captain. And it was just like, man, that was an amazing scene, but it was like kind of harsh to watch because it was like, wow, that really sucks. But I can't fault Jim for doing that. It was definitely the right decision, especially where Bullock is. Like, he's too mentally unstable to be fit in that position. That's outside of the crazy Falcone Penguin war that's going down. Especially, I love this episode for Penguin as well. But it was just like, man, that was a harsh little moment to watch. And he talks about how Jim getting into this position, he knows that it's going to cost him something, even though it might not seem that way. Nothing's free in Gotham, and you better be able to pay up because you're going to have to at some point. And I was like, that was a great way to end that whole little sequence. Absolutely phenomenal. And Jim, I think, is kind of realizing that, during that moment. He goes, of course, to Falcone, and it's like, I think she says during that sequence, because she's a genius, so she always says, like, oh, this just happened, or whatever. At the end, she was just like, I made you mayor, or I made you captain, so aren't you happy, and stuff. It was like, you didn't make me in this. And he said something that was really stupid. I think he told her to leave the city, and I was just like, he's trying to get murdered now, because I don't know what that means. I mean, I guess considering she's trying to take down Penguin, I don't really know if she has, she seemed to be cool with Jim, whereas, like, my brother was under the virus. Understandable. You didn't start the virus, you just had to take him down to protect someone else. Makes sense. But then it's like, I don't know. She's a genius. She's an evil genius, and who knows? Who the F knows what she's really got going on? Like, I never considered that until this episode, that she could also be playing Jim. Like, it didn't really, for some reason, it didn't occur to me, because she seemed like she was uninterested in everything, and now as things are kind of starting to build up, it's like, that might not actually be the case. She might legitimately be here to take over the city, just like her dad did. And she's like, alright, of course I gotta get rid of Penguin first, and then, with everything that I'm doing for Jim, he will owe me, or, I'll just get rid of him and do what I need to do. Just kind of start the cycle over again, pick someone else who will listen to me. So, it's hard to say if she's still kind of going along with the initial plan, or if she's got her own little agenda going where she is kind of moving things back towards how they used to be in Gotham with Falcone's on top. But definitely a great ending for Jim's storyline in this episode. Loved Penguin's storyline in this episode as well. A lot of things have just been going real wrong for him. And I was hoping that something would happen that would make him figure out what was going on with him and Falcone. And I was so happy when that kid came along and he had to start teaching him. And the part where he writes, on the note, it was like, but I'm your friend. And in that moment, he even says, like, the last friend I had became, like, my worst enemy. And I was like, he's going to get it. But he didn't get it in that part of the episode. But as he's training this little kid, he does start to realize it. Like, he has the moment where, at the end of the episode, Falcone is like, hey, are you going to meet me for dinner and stuff? He's like, oh, I don't think I can. I got to, he needs a little bit more training. And I was like, I think he finally gets it. And then he turns to the kid and he starts talking to him. I was like, what did we learn about friends? And he was like, he draws the picture and he's like, exactly. Sometimes friendship can be a bit of a ruse so that you don't see what's right in your face. And I was like, he finally gets what's happening to him. And I can't wait to see how all of that plays out. He was getting pissed off this entire episode. He was mad about Ed putting on the show. Naturally, he was mad about Ed not actually being captured and Firefly being taken out. There's lots going wrong, and then he has the realization as he's teaching this kid, oh, I currently have a new friend who will probably also become one of my worst enemies, and she's trying to kind of skate around the idea that she is tricking me. So I don't know what that means, but I love it because I was super happy at the end when he realized it. I was like, I can't wait to see how this plays out and how how he decides to basically go about tricking her as she's trying to still trick him. So I'm super happy for where things are headed. Like, everything they did in this episode was great. It was like, Lee is now the leader of the Narrows. That could probably mean a war against Penguin if they decide to, all those people decide to rally together. Penguin, of course, now realizes what's going on between him and Falcone. Possibly there's the hint that she's also betraying Jim by, the necessary sacrifices and stuff like that. Naturally, Bullock versus Jim being a thing now. So there was a lot in this episode to really enjoy. And then we still have Tabitha, Selina, and Barbara doing their thing. And it was just like, they were kind of just caught up in the middle of this episode where it was like, they were dealing with the guy where it's like, we kind of robbed him and stuff like that, no big deal. And then, Penguin was like, he loves his, his neck stabbing thing. So he kills that guy and it's like, all right, his debt is now owed to me, so that's what you guys got to do. But just go get Ed, and then that doesn't end up working because of the timeline. Even though they had him, it just took a little bit too long. So it was like, all right, well, that sucks. So they're still going up against him. Eventually, Butch is going to get his memories back, and there's just a million different things that happened in this episode. All very well paced. So really enjoyed this episode. Looking forward to the next one. We do get to see Bruce come back, and it seems like he's really dealing with everything that happened as far as him actually killing somebody. That seems like what it was from the promo, like him just being like super duper angry and stuff. And it's like it's finally starting to make him crack a little bit. And it's it's new Bruce. Seeing him. I think the last time we saw him was him getting like super drunk and looking like he was more high on cocaine or something when he was dancing at the club that he bought. But looking forward to that in the next episode for sure. But all in all, I thought this was a great one. Excuse me. Naturally, would love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it. And I would love to know your theories and thoughts on what Penguin is going to do now that he realizes he's been getting played this whole time. Because it's hard to say where he's going to go with it, because he's got so many issues to deal with. It's like he already has Ed. He doesn't realize he's going to have a brand new issue. I don't know what they're going to do with Firefly, because I know she wasn't dead. She was just knocked out. So, I don't know if she's going to get back to him in the next episode and report, like, hey, the leader of the Narrows, or, like, this little group has been killed, and now Lee has taken over, and then that'll, lead to some other elements. So, I don't exactly know where he's going to go, because he's got so many different things kind of coming at him. As usual, like, that seems to be his thing now, is that he'll be on top, and then he'll just make a million enemies all at once, and everybody will start coming after him, and then he'll take him down a peg, but then he'll build back up, just like he did in the last season, where he had a ton of people coming after him. Those people have their own little internal issues, and that just kind of somehow works itself out, and then, boom, Penguin always ends up on top still, because everybody's killing each other, so they don't really worry about him anymore. So I don't know. It's hard to tell where things are headed, because he's got so much coming his way, quite a few things that he's going to be going out doing himself. But I would love to know your theories on where his storyline's headed, how he's going to be taking on some of these characters, how they're going to be trying to take him down as well. But in general, want to know what you guys think about where he's headed. And of course, like I said, I want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.